Hello, welcome. So good to be here. Talk once in a while. Um, our goal is to, well, first a shout out to these guys. We just started doing some work with them. It's just some volunteer work with them to kind of help them with some SharePoint stuff and some project management things with them. And so that's kind of exciting. Today is, I was looking up what the exact day is. It's Giving Back Day, Tuesday. Is that what today is? So they have an offer. If you give $50, donate $50, and you're in a raffle to win one of their trips. And their mission is to eliminate extreme poverty in the world. And so they've been going for a long time. And so they have groups in 7 countries specifically working on that mission. So they've been kind of cool to work with. So anyway, that's just it's good to do lots of different things, and that's one of the things we're working on. So I wanted to just give them a shout out. Oh, that doesn't show up. Oh, cool. So this is me and almost our family. We're now a family of we've got a grandchild in 2 months. But so this is our family. I have 3 kids and 3 married kids. So they're all in the family. So grateful for all of them. Like traveling, biking, hiking, flag football. Gosh, I'm running out of flag football years in my lifetime, but I still like it. Don't mention it. No, I didn't even touch the football. I'm so sad. Well, we'll have one still. I'm still got to create it, but it just didn't happen. I've only tore 1 ACL on Thanksgiving Day. That's all I've done. So I get in a little trouble for doing much, but I've lived in Germany and United States, a bunch of states, went to a lot of schools. Most of my traveling, my mom married an Army guy when I was 8, but actually my traveling slowed down at that point, not sped up, but we did travel still. And I've been being a SharePoint solution architect for a while, manufacturing, construction, healthcare, banking, utilities, whatever, lots of different pretty cool fields. Document approvals for 28 years, whatever, it's some kind of number. It just seems to go on and on. But I've been doing a lot of the same things. You know, SharePoint's been around for 18 years. I've been doing it for 14. I don't know what I say, but 14 years, about 2004 with SharePoint 2003. It was really terrible in the beginning. I mean, it really was. You couldn't really do much. And but 2007, it started to be a little bit to where I could do something with it and start to build things. But most of my life has been about using tools that are pretty much kind of power user type of tools. If you go back to Excel, Lotus 1-2-3, Lotus Notes, all of that world in the 90s for me was all about trying to use a tool that's out there that you could just mesh it around and do a lot of things with it. My schooling was in COBOL and fun stuff like that, and it just wasn't so sexy to me. So I switched over to PC stuff and more things like that pretty early on. This is my regular stuff. I think I've tweeted at least 4 times. And so follow me all you want. It won't mess up your feed, I promise you. And this is just a little bit about Sovereign SP. So had a company since 2000. Sometimes I've kind of switched and does a couple things in the middle of the late 2000s when I switched from Notes to SharePoint. There was a weird time. I did a lot of weird things, weird as far as a technology person goes. Worked in healthcare and stuff like that, which was not technology. It was kind of different. But some of the things that we do, I just want to talk about that, and then I'll apply it to the examples that we'll talk about today. But we build customized solutions that are quick and easy design, designs that make sense. And so some of the things that I want to show you today with what we've done, mostly with like the public utilities project site, I want to just show you some of the ways that I do things. If you've heard me speak before, you've heard some of those same things. I've been doing a lot of the same things over and over again, and it's just methods that make sense and make sense out of SharePoint, which in some ways, the thing that drives me crazy about Microsoft, and they're still continuing to do that, is they like to just be very general and that there's 10 ways to do everything. And it makes it, it doesn't really give you much structure. And I kind of like a little bit of structure if you're building something that has some logic and flow to it. So I'll show you some of those things that I do. But for the most part, everything is pretty much out of the box type of design. Use a little bit of JavaScript, out of the box and no code. When I first started doing SharePoint, no code was pretty much, if you didn't use Visual Studio, you were no code. And if you used a little JavaScript and HTML, that was okay. Now the world's shifting where you can do a lot of JavaScript and HTML to where it feels like maybe it's close to code. When I say out of the box, I'm really looking for, can I hand this to a client and let them take over? And for the most part, there's very few little pieces that they are like, I don't know how that works. Can you come fix this? I like to build things that most people could do, even normal out of the box type users. Also do a little bit of training from time to time, kind of on those same principles. So I like to do that as well. So those are some of the things that we're kind of about. I don't have many slides. We just want to talk through a couple different examples. One is this project tracking document example. It has a lot of different features, and I just wanted to show you that. And some of it's, we've been working with Salt Lake City Public Utilities and building kind of this process for them. And I just wanted to show you some concepts in that I think are helpful and useful. It's 4:30. So we'll spend a little bit of time on that, and then we'll talk a little bit about a Power App example. How many use InfoPath and Workflow Designer still? Or do you have some of that running? You've used it, but you're not using it much anymore, right? Some of it's still there. How many are using Power Apps? So you're using Power Apps? How many are using, what else are you using? Custom HTML forms. How many want to use Power Apps? Okay. So you're kind of in that middle. I'm still in that middle zone. I use a lot of InfoPath still because I'm still waiting for, the king is still InfoPath. Oh, sorry, you're cutting me off. Oh, sorry. I'm not using it. It's not still king. Oh, it's terrible. But I'm waiting. I'm looking for functionality. I've got to have certain things to work in order to use a form tool that will let me do what I need to do. And so you've got Flow versus Designer and InfoPath versus Power Apps 4. I'm looking to just that over. I think it's not working. I think it's not. Well, it's not doing it in here, but I don't know. It's for the remote. Why don't you just sign everything that I say for the on? We'll see how it turns out. If it doesn't turn out, no way we do. Maybe. Still a little feedback. But so I'm looking to get this, I'm looking to switch over. And so what we did want to do a Power App example. And before I can do that for a client very well, I've got to know what it is and what it can do. And so we just started working on that. So we started coming up with something. And I have problems with timesheets forever. I've had to do timesheets for all of my life. My ideal life is not to do a timesheet in my life someday, but until I'm retired, I guess that's how it works. But so Ben and I, it's Ben Fetters. He's not related. Sounds like he is. He might look a little like me, but he's not related whatsoever. He's just, I picked him up the street. No, he's been really sharp and jumped right into this. And so we're going to show off our little timesheet tracking app that we've built. And it's, I like it actually. It's on my phone. I can put in my time on my phone. It's actually a pretty sensible thing. And so I'm still looking for that kind of transfer of what can I do with Power Apps that works good. Anyway, so let's jump right in. I'm trying not to give too many secrets away. I'm going to be doing some test projects and stuff, but I do want to talk about this overall structure of what we're trying to put together, and it's been so lovely to work with Jason and crew there at Salt Lake City Public Utilities, because it's just they're great people. I mean, it's been fun. But in this process, you know, you go in and you start to look at all of this stuff going on, and you see how somebody is using SharePoint and how they're going after it, and then how do you take that and start to make it into some processes and a little bit a little more organized, and in all of the projects going on and all the things going on, and even the process of having a project be created there's always a lot going on. There's a lot of people in this world, and they have a process underneath this CAP process. We'll just say that's a request for a project. And I'll just say kind of generically. So when I want to request a project, I go through that process, and it's a form. I open it up, I fill it out. It has workflow attached to it. And they go through a budgeting process, and eventually those projects get turned into real projects, to where it's a real project with document libraries and places to put things, as well as workflows and everything that goes with that. So this picture of this project, I want to show you. So as I drill into any project, I have a bunch of things here. So this is my home page, and I have workflows. And so within this project, I have documents, and I have forms and things that have to be filled out. Okay, so whatever kind of projects you do, if you have those kind of things, usually you have documents. And in this case, I have documents in different phases. So if I take a look at these various phases, then those are here, and I can say, okay, what if I want to go to, while we're doing procure, I want to throw all those kind of documents in this particular document set. So I'll tell you a little bit technically how it's all kind of built, but I just want to show you kind of the functionality. So as I drill in here, I have a regular library, or a regular doc. This is really a document set that is for this project. and I see all my documents. I can upload documents. I can see properties about the documents. And so it allows me to get in here and see what's going on any of the documents. This is just regular properties. We've done a little bit of changes on the properties form so that when I'm looking at the document itself and I'm looking at the phase category, which is just a subcategory of that phase, I only have options that I want to see. It's just kind of a categorized thing. And so we're doing this, in this case, we're doing it on an HTML form. It's not an InfoPath form, it's just an HTML form. So we want it in a simple document properties form, and so we're just doing a little bit of that. There's not a whole lot of data on the documents. For the most part, we've already, it's already in a certain project and it's in a certain document set. Now, so as I move around, this navigation shows up here all the time. I can also see all of my documents that are in that documents in that project. Now, what we did. So again, I have my different projects. I have different filtering. I'm doing all that normal SharePoint stuff. So that's one piece of this, and this is in this case we did document sets. I haven't been much of a fan of document sets to use that much in life, but in this case they wanted everything secure around this phase, and they actually have contractors and engineers coming from the outside. So this is an Office 365 site with external people coming in. And so we wanted every phase to be secure to certain people. And in order to do that, we put it all in a document set, so it's kind of a container that's wrapped around that and can be secure. No matter what people do, anything that goes in there will be secure. So that's why we did that. But then when I'm looking here, and moving to this page, it shows all those documents from the document set. So in one case, I'm in the document set looking at a view. Pat, I don't know if this helps. And then when I'm coming to this page, I'm looking at every document from that project that's over multiple document sets. So we're just looking at a view that way. And so sometimes when you're trying to find something and you're looking for something, you just want to find it here. Now we built a little custom view for this, and it's actually super fast. So it's faster than the regular SharePoint find when I'm looking for something. It's just super fast because all the data is there that's from the view. So it's just really fast. This navigation over here on the right is ways for me to start different workflows. It just was a simple way to put very information about the project and about the and be able to create links, be able to start specific workflows or create specific templates for my project that's all related to this project. So if you think about a normal SharePoint site and you have a project, and you want to create documents for that project, what do you have to do for that? Or if you want to create a list item for some process, it's like, okay, I want to create, in this case, RFI is a request for information. So somebody out there in the field wants to request information, so they're saying, how can I do this? How can I do this in this world? So if you think about it, how do you do that in a regular SharePoint world? When you have documents that you want to put in here. I want a template that comes in here. How do you do templates? On content types. Okay, so content types is one way. I could create a new content type that's got that template specifically called out. Exactly, I can do that. So that's one answer. What else have you done? That I have them already there, right? So it's already got those. So those are great ideas. We use a little bit of that here, but in some ways, all those content types, they've got I'd have to say 70 different templates. That gets crazy, right? Now I've got 70 different content types. What do you want to create? I want to create that. Oh dear, that's kind of overwhelming to me. What phase it? Then all of a sudden I can't filter on. If it's in a certain phase, I want to do that. So I've done that in different ways over the years. I've had links to it that go ahead and gets the template and then saves it in the right place and all that. But I really love this, I have to say. I love the way this works. So right now, let's just show you a little bit. So right now, it's going to this page. So this is a dynamic page. It's not a specific project page. It's a dynamic page. So it goes to one page. If I change this, if I change it to purple, every single project is purple. It's one page, okay? So it's a dynamic page. And all I'm doing up here is I'm giving it, in the URL, I'm saying project number equals this number, this number, this one, which is the project number. And that goes and grabs and makes this all dynamic. So all of these buttons and links and everything that I'm doing just registers that project and moves around to a different page based on that project number. Does that make sense? So as I'm moving around here, these are smart and say, okay, I already know that when you click on that, it's just going to go to a different page for that project number and so on. So that's all the magic of this. But it makes it all dynamic. It makes it pretty cool. But on the templates, when I click on this, if you can see down below, that's all it's doing is saying, hey, go open up and add a doc. So that's my little request. So I'm doing a request to add this document. Add in this IP number. So I'm passing in a variable, which is the project number. And that source equals, what's that? Everybody knows that. What's the source equal means? I mean, don't feel bad if you don't know it. But what's the source equal mean? So when you create a link, a hyperlink, and you say, I want to go open up that item, and when you're done, the source just says, hey, when you're done, whatever you do, go to this page. It's just a nice way of controlling them. Otherwise, it'll go to the page from that list, and you're like, what? Why am I here? And it's kind of confusing. So that's what that source is. So I'm just building these links. No trouble building this link based on the project number. So let's click on this. The beautiful king of forms, still till it dies. Info path form. So then this is a form. Now, usually when you create a form, what happens? Doesn't have any of this, right? You got to go and say, oh, now I got to select a project, and I've got 1,000 projects. How does this get filled in? I want to talk. That's one of the little things I want to show you how, if you want to know. If not, you can eat more and not worry about it. But so in this, so I want a template, and so instead of creating a template and trying to figure it out, I'm going to give you a template. I'm going to put it exactly where it needs to go, and I'm going to name it exactly what it needs to be named. Okay. And in fact, when I say again, there's lots of different forms, and so I can just choose one of these, and it's going to grab that that form, and I'll call this one. What's your favorite number? 17. Okay, 17. I don't think I was 17. So without too much trouble, I'll request the document. And now it's going to one library, so when this finishes and does its little workflow, so this form, all it does is kind of sets everything else. Another workflow behind the scenes goes and grabs that document from another template library, copies it over to the perfect document set in our project library, and gosh, I had to push sometimes you got to push the screen. It's not voice activated. So it comes back. I'm all happy. And I'm waiting for my document to show up. What phase did I create it in? I think it was procure. Yeah, we can, because it's been a nice little tool. They make fun of me, Salt Lake, because it's from the Russians. It's my secret plum sale code. No, but it's Plum Sale has a few add-on tools. They're doing some Power Apps and Flow add-on tools, but they have some nice little add-on tools for the for designer workflow. And the copying, especially here where I'm copying from one place to another, is tricky when I have two different sites. I'm actually going from one site to another. That's difficult with regular designer, and so Plum Sale has a little bit of add-on. So for this example, I've done this kind of same work without the extra tool. You can still do it in designer. And so anyway, that's possible. Anyway, it should show up over here. Oh, it already did. It's there already. Sorry, 17. So that document comes over. I can start working on it. It's already where it needs to be. It's just a blank template, and I can start building on it. So that's another way to build a template, is kind of through this way. So I use all I'm using is a form. The form kind of lines everything up because it already knows what project I want. It knows what phase I want. It can kind of sort through all of those different documents and categories. And it's super easy to add another one. Because if you said, hey, I need to add another template. Oh, no, not another content type or not another bunch of stuff I've got to do. They just add it. It's done. So they add another template. They can have 1,000, 10,000, 1,000,000. But they can have those templates. And the way this works, when we do use Plum Sale to create the project. When we create the project, we actually go through, we create groups, we create the document sets themselves. So there's 9 in this case. And when they come over just like you said, with those whatever templates that are the beginner templates. They come in with those. Oh, we always need 3 in this phase and 2 in this phase and 5 in this phase. They copy over with that. So anyway, that's that little cool thing. I think it's cool. Thank you. Give hers. Yeah, it's a regular library, regular document library. And if you, in my past, before I used Plum Sale, Designer does that. You just have one library where your templates are, and you just have this form that just points to that and says, oh, which one do you want? Oh, you want that one? Great. And then when the workflow runs on it, it just grabs that document and copies it over to the real library and then updates it with the project and the author and all the things that I specified in the form itself. Does that make sense? So it's a nice way to start that whole template world off. I think it's one of the better ways to do it because you've got complications no matter what. Like with site collections, and it deals better with document sets because the regular designer doesn't deal with putting something inside a document set. That's tricky. Well, it's not tricky. It's not possible. It's really tricky. So tricky it's not possible. But Plum Sale just allows you to copy it straight to a path from one path to another, which does accomplish this. Usually I don't, like I said, usually I don't deal with document sets. I'm just, copying it from here over to here, and it's fine. No, it's metadata. I'm just updating metadata. Yeah. Yeah, and I do that too. Do you use quick parts on your documents? What's terrible about Office 2016? Have you found that yet? So if you use lookups, for instance, if I had a library and I had a lookup to a facility or something like that, okay? And I used to have that in a document, and in my quick parts, I don't think I'm having any here, but on my quick parts, I would say insert into the Word document the metadata field facility, and it would come in and it would say, oh, it's a lookup. Okay, I know it's not really 17. I know it's really facility XYZ, and it would just pull in that value. With 2016, if you've looked at the way properties work in Office 2016 dealing with SharePoint, it's kind of weird now. It's kind of does a lot of different things differently than it used to. And so I've started to just use single line of text fields to be able to pull that in, because that still works fine in your quick parts fields. But if you think about it, your example, and I use that a lot with standards and other kind of documents that are coming in that way, and I want the document itself to have filled in metadata, then I'll use quick parts. So I'll grab the template of the standard, I'll put it into the library, I'll update all of the fields, the metadata fields. Then when I open up that document, all those quick parts have been updated, and so now it's like, oh, it's already got half everything filled out. Now I just fill in the rest, done, save it, and it's all good. So it's a fast way to kind of get there with a template that's somewhat filled out. Does that make sense? These here, we'll show you. Anything looking interesting? Do the invoice. If you don't say anything, I'm deciding. No, they don't. Punch list? That doesn't. Well, punch list could be interesting. So we'll show off a few things about this form and some things that I've liked. I've always tried to do something like this. This is kind of Pete's invention that's specific, that as the form is going through the process, we just change the color. I see everything, all the steps along the way. This is a real complicated form with the invoice, but sometimes it's not so complicated. But I'd love to show in a form, whatever kind of form, Power Apps Flow, Power Apps or regular info path, or I'd like to show where I'm at as I'm moving through the process, right? Because now I can see, oh, okay, this is where I'm at. I know it's got to go through these steps. I probably am not going to get paid for a while because it's got to go through 7 steps. So I can it kind of gives me an idea, right? So that's good. Now again, when I clicked on that, well, this isn't released yet, so it's testing, so it's not everything locked down. But again, I'm bringing in the project number, project title, it goes and grabs data from that form in InfoPath and pulls that all in. And then they fill out stuff and then can mark it as submitted. So they'll attach their invoice here and submit it. It sends an email, all that kind of stuff. You guys doing a lot of that? Emailing, sending forms around? Yes, no, maybe? Yeah, so that's a good question. Let me show you. I've done forms for how long? 62 years at least. Back when there was a car. No, that was. Anyway, so here's my logic on forms and these buttons and these buttons up here. Because part of my process, when you have an application, I don't like this basic SharePoint out-of-the-box form that doesn't let you do anything but if you want to change the status. I don't like that. I want to control the next step. And so usually, like in this case, we actually, if you look at the form, there's 7 submit buttons, they're different things are happening because that submit button looks different for different people. So as I go through the process, if I change, in this case, this isn't usually allowed. So as I push a button, but in this case, it's a good way to show you. So when I push the button, it's going to change it to submitted 1. That is a signal to the workflow to do something. And the workflow is going to say, oh, lovely, this form is now submitted 1. What do I do? Oh, I got to email. I got to send it to the right people. I got to move it to the next step. And when I'm done with my part, Mr. Workflow, I'm going to change it to 2 PM review. And so now it's in that state. And when I move it to that state, the color changes, the fields change. Now it's focused on that PM review. They can come in here and do the things they need to do, which they're going to come in and do they approve something yet? No, not yet. And so again, they'll hit their submit button. That'll change it to submitted to, then that will change it to generate this, and so on. So it just kind of walks through the process. Okay? Yes, or if they save and close, as is with it being submit invoice, the workflow says, I don't do anything with that. That's a no do anything for me right now. So and this is what I've been doing for as long as, at least with Designer. Now with Flow, I still would kind of follow this, but instead of thinking of a workflow as I start this workflow and the workflow has to wait and pause and wait for all these things to happen, forget that. First of all, that's when SharePoint Designer has issues being in this pause state and then moving on. It has it's 2 problems like that. I mean, that's when people go crazy. And that's when they say, oh, I hate Designer workflow, it's terrible, I'm never using it. If you do that, you may never use it because it has issues. What I like to do is get in and get out with what's going on. And so that's what this is doing. It's saying inside the workflow, it just says, if the status is or process step is equal to submitted 1, do a bunch of stuff. Otherwise, it says if it's equal to submitted 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. And if it's none of those, it just says, oh, I'm done. So it's always get in, do my thing, change the status to the next step, and move on. So it's kind of I call it a talking back and forth between the form and design and the workflow. Okay.
But also we set the security on each one of those workflows too. So depending on the step you're in, fields are either locked out or not visible or whatever. So it's item level security based on the workflow for SharePoint Designer. And that's sometimes we have to use 2 different versions of SharePoint Designer because what's that called? The impersonation step? Yeah. Is only in the,
oh yeah, between 2010 or 2013. Yeah.
So because the needs of Salt Lake is so much focused on external users contributing to these steps, that's
yeah.
a big part of why we
I thought I went to conferences. I've told you a little bit in here. I went to the conference, the last SharePoint 6 months ago or whatever. I was excited. They convinced me they're ready. I did some training. I'm like, I think they're ready. And then I say, hey, how does it work for external users? Oh, it doesn't. Not at all? Not at all. Oh my gosh, you're driving me crazy. I just bought 27 new iPads ready to have Power Apps. I watched thousands of hours of Laura videos, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So, but I'm yelling at them. Something's got to give on that. I hope that something does give so that because otherwise it's like, oh, it's hard when again, this is the battle when you're dealing with tools and you're not coding yourself. You're always you're going to build and do stuff and it's going to be lovely. And then you're going to hit this little, wall and you're going to say, oh my gosh, I almost can do it except for I can't, and so it's the life of trying to deal with staying in this box So when you say you're in the box, you're going to hit walls in the box. So that's the issues. But I feel like I have a talent of finding ways to get there, and so that's what you have to do sometimes. So again, that's the process. That's kind of where it works through, and then letting the workflow work, and it works really clean when it does that. I mean I promise when I've done all the workflows I've done, if I keep it clean like that, it works good. When I try to use even approval process, because I started kind of using an approval process in a lot of my stuff, I thought, hey, this is a pretty clean, I use my own workflow, but then when it gets to an approval process, I'm like, oh, let me use their approval process to go get information and say create tasks and all that. I have to tell you, I'm about ready to yank that too, because it's anything with too much going on. It's like, I don't know, it's got too much going on. Things can break. It's like, I just bought a car finally after forever, 12 years, and I'm still a little bit of the old school where it's like, I don't really want power windows because those things just break, but sorry. Can I get this without power windows? But yes. Yeah. And when I say Power Apps, I want you to think of two things, because they sold us one thing at the very beginning. So don't think of Power Apps only for the phone and mobile, even though that's how it started. Now it's the Power Apps for the phone, and I've got to deal with that type of device, and that's it's a whole application in itself. And then it's the Power App Form Builder, which lets me do this kind of stuff. And so I can do this kind of stuff in Power Apps and have a whole screen and kind of deal with it. But I'm still, again, that's why we haven't quite switched yet. And I'm still looking. I'm still seeing how it can do it and still watching. But for now, and when we show Ben's thing in our time tracking app that Ben's done, we'll kind of show you that, that look on the mobile. I'm almost done, and then we'll move on to that. Do you want to know how that whole hooking of the project, how I bring in the project number? Do you care about that? It's about 2 hours of no, it's not. It is not in a workflow. It can't be, because I'm clicking on this button and it has to know. So it's an info path. It's an info path thing. I got to show it to you because it's kind of cool. I'll just live through it. If you're going to use info path, it's like whatever. Think of it as just whatever. I bought you some food. Let's see if I can explain the concept to you. So we'll pick this guy. So there's a couple things on the form that I've got to do. So one is somehow I've got to pass that value. Now I have it in the URL. You see that in the URL that I'm passing, right? I'm saying go to this info path form, open up a new one, and pass this variable, right? Well, if you just do that alone, that info path says, I don't know what you're talking about, right? It just says, oh, here's your form, but I don't know anything about it. So the magic behind that is a simple little thing. My favorite web part is the query string filter. And so all I'm doing is I'm saying, Mr. Brand New Form, and this is only on the new form. I'm not doing it on any others. So I'm saying, oh, grab the project. In this case, I'm using the project number. So I'm saying project number, grab that string that's in the URL, pass it to this form that's in info path, and then on the connector, I say connect that to an input variable that's my I call it IP number or something, not the real P number, but the IP number. And on my form, if that's filled in, then I go do some stuff. I go get the project, I go get the PM, I go fill in all those variables and go grab all that information. Does that make sense? So when I look at this guy here, which one is this? This is a different one, but when I look at this guy here, and I look at all the rules, then it's saying, oh, great, that means I got a project number, go do a query on that project list, go get the project stuff, and then go fill in all this stuff. And there's a bunch of this just because it's people picker fields. And I'm filling in all this stuff. And so that's why it all fills in, and it's lovely. So if you never use it, you're missing out, you'll be sad, your life won't be quite complete, but that's okay. Let's see. Pete, anything else? This part here I've always been crazy about because it's like, who has rights to this site and who to this project? I got a lot going on. How am I even going to know? And so we just created this to where we say, oh, who's in these project groups? And I just tell you. We go and do a lookup. We grab those members. We pull them in. And so I can quickly see who's got rights. It's a little bit of JavaScript code, but it's so nice to have that and not be able to say what, who's got what in this project. Yeah, I guess that's kind of it. Anything else, Jason? Anything else? Is that enough? Jason's like, I've seen this already. I'm missing my son's bar mitzvah. No. All right, so let's switch over to. Oh shoot! How do I do that? How do I do my phone with that? It's impossible. There was no HDMI, huh? How about, do you have a big magnifying glass? I could just, okay, we won't worry about that. Let's do, oh yeah. Do you like Teams? Who likes it? I like it. He likes it. You're using it pretty good though. You're using it pretty structured, right? Didn't you guys say that? Are you using it in a structured good way, or you're just kind of just starting to use it? Oh, wow, Wes. I didn't know if it was. They're just trying to turn on things. And... Do you want to switch computers? Are you already in this? You're in? Do you need to share? We just need to have you share? Yeah. Let me talk through it. I was going to show my phone, but let's talk through it off your screen. Launch it, and then we'll just do it that way. It's not quite as cool. You can't ever have like MSN as your home screen. Then you're going into a browser to do something, and all of a sudden you're like, why am I watching this video? I was going to do something. It's terrible.
Ron, I wonder if you could join the meeting.
How about you? I can probably do it. Let's just log in on mine.
Yeah.
Let's log in on mine. That's going to work. We'll figure it out. Let's not be more. We've already been complicated enough today. I have rights to it anyway.